Hey, welcome to Fireside 42's test episode for our new podcast. My name is Robert Soderstrom. I work in hang-on parts for the ID4, and I'm here talking today with our bargaining members. We got Caleb, how do you pronounce your last name? Michalski with us. And we got Josh Epperson.
Hey, everybody.
And our sound guy is Tony Bodavis. I'm terrible with last names. I apologize. I'm going to get them all learned by the time this is all said and done. So here's the deal. This is what we're doing, right? We want to communicate with our body proper, with all you guys out there in Volkswagen plant. We don't want you to get all of your information from the company. We don't want you to get all of the information. Well, I don't. I don't want all the information to come from just the UAW. I want it to come from us and from our team members, which is our bargaining team. So I've asked these guys, I've talked them into it, I've complained about it, and they said, do it. So we're going to do a podcast communicating to our members from our bargaining team what they want you to hear. And today we're going to talk about how that works. So if you guys want to introduce yourself a little bit, and let's press on.
Hello, my name is Caleb Michalski, and I am a representative of the logistics and AGV workers, both in battery assembly and body shop.
This is Josh Epperson. I was elected from the now defunct third shift assembly. I was an equipment operator on door line, and then I guess I still am. We'll kind of see how that lands. On the bargaining committee now, and co-chair of the bargaining committee, so I kind of help, lead the proceedings whenever we need to have something that's not obviously, sorted out right at the beginning. So.
Yeah, and your sound guy here, Tony Bodavis. I represent battery, really the whole plant, obviously. Been with the company 5 years. Honored to be on the team. It's been a really good, few months for us for sure. Got a lot of language completed and TA'd. So we're honored to be here and we're ready to go.
Beautiful. So are you first shift?
Yeah, right now I am. I'm battery first shift, but still, serving on the committee.
Okay.
Before that, I was a battery second shift. When they reduced, I went over to BA0 for a little while.
Okay. I just didn't want to be the only shitty first shifter here. So
I'm also a first shifter.
I thought you said second. I'm sorry. Yeah, second shift. So
I may be first shift now.
all right. So let's get into it. So what I want to talk about today is how you guys organize yourselves, the rules of operation that you guys establish for yourselves, so that our team members understand what's going on from your perspective. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to say first about that, it's painfully democratic. It's one of those things where you have a room full of 20 people, and if any one person objects to it, it does not fly. And so it's kind of like a jury room in some respects like that. You will sit down, you will have that conversation, and you need to sell everyone on what you're trying to propose or have everyone else sell you on it. So in that way, since you have people from all the different parts of the plant, all those voices, all those perspectives, all those needs are represented throughout the course of those discussions.
Mm-hmm. And touching on what you were saying, that was something that was really intentional in the town hall that we had at the IBAW hall right after we won the election, the same day that we nominated people for the election committee. We wanted to make sure that everyone at Volkswagen on the shop floor was being represented. So we want to make sure that when we did do when we did have representatives for the bargaining committee, we want to make sure that we were representing every single shift, every single shop, as well as different demographics that exist here at the plant. Because we're a really diverse spot, which is amazing. We wanted to make sure that we captured that.
Yeah, I think the diversity of the team is remarkable too, because we've got people, high seniority folks, low seniority folks, people from every shop, every department, every shift, even shifts that aren't here anymore. And people from all walks of life, all different ages, and that range of experience, brings something to the room, especially because it's so democratic. You have those 20 people. One of those 20 people has an experience that can, shed some light on what's being discussed at that particular moment. So it's really extraordinary.
So, has it been easy? Like, you get lots of voices, lots of opinions. Everybody's got an idea of what they want their union to be, right? My union is not Jacob's union, and it's not Tony's union, right? So, has there been much conflict in trying to make all these visions coalesce?
Sometimes, but overall, I feel like we're really good at communicating and being able to portray our ideas and concerns and then rationalize them. And if we get to a point where we may get off track, then we have the support of the incredible international staff that have been here to help kind of guide us on track. But for pretty much all decisions, going off of my own little tangent, like for all decisions that we've had to make, the international staff hops out and we discuss it. We decide on it. And that's something I wanted to touch base on because there's a lot of misinformation from the company saying that the UAW is this outside entity that's coming down here and it's just going to run your shop for you and create all sets of rules. And it's like, no. We are the UAW. We are the ones who are making decisions. Even some things that are seemingly small, they step out of the room, we discuss it, we vote on it, and we tell them what our plan is moving forward.
I'd like to add on to that a little bit also because, it's exactly what Caleb says. But in addition to that, it's not us guys in the room making all these decisions by ourselves. These are not our ideas, This is a whole plant that came up with all these ideas, all these demands that they have. And so we jumped on that, and we still look at that every day. We still look at the top 5, top 20 of things. Hey, what matters to the people on the floor? They have the power, and they give us the power. So we need to make sure that we use that power wisely with the company.
Touching on what you were saying, just last week, there was an instance where we were discussing an issue, and we were kind of in an agreement. And then I believe it was Billy Quigg that popped up and said, like, okay, well, this sounds really well and good to us. Let's go back and review the demand log and see which way is most important to the membership. And then we went through, we read it, and we're like, holy shit, this was the demand that this many hundred of people said that was most important to them in this way. So that's the direction we're going to pivot and move towards.
Yeah, it was really important that we keep ourselves calibrated in using that type of information. And going back to it is nice to have, senior staff from the UAW come in and kind of help us out. Because a lot of times you'll come across a situation, all right, we know how it works at Volkswagen. We know what we're trying to get to, what our in-state goal is. But when you're talking about contractual language, sometimes you need to kind of figure out, okay, has this been tried anywhere before and what was the outcome? And so it gives us an opportunity not only to make things from the broader UAW family fit our plant, but also to make sure, we're not kind of putting ourselves into a corner that'll create a problem later.
So one of the things that I'm curious about, so you have, we did an initial bargaining survey, right? So you have this list, this exhaustive list of all the wants that our guys come up with, right? But the thing is that the vast majority of us have never been in a union before, right? So we know the things that we want. We want more pay. We want better this. We want better that. But there's stuff that I've been hearing about in the language that I think are most likely things that we wouldn't know to ask, right? Because we've never been there before. So you're dealing with a lot of language that hasn't got anything to do with our asks. How do you reconcile that to make sure that stuff that we didn't know to ask for aligns with what we did want? Does that make sense? Is that a good?
It does.
It really does. I think a lot of that you can look at it like when a baby's crying. There's a problem here, and you have to kind of figure it out. And so that was one of the things. Is like people had a lot of complaints about safety on the floor or health related issues, these types of things. And we do not at Volkswagen have a robust health and safety program by any stretch of the imagination. And then when we sit down with a UAW staff member whose entire career has been spent writing and perfecting language related to that and actually working with different outside entities that get us to that desired state where we can actually address those issues. So that's where it came from. So you had like and we're going to have to deal with a lot of that too with representation, where somebody has a problem. You have to kind of listen through the surrounding background noise and find out what the root of it is so that you can sort it out. And Caleb, you worked with Jim Holton and Matt. I can't remember his last name. Upmore.
Yeah.
And these guys were tremendous in helping us craft language to address problems that we have that we did not know how to put into words. And I'll turn it over to you because that was your home base for a long time.
Oh, well, I mean, I'll try to keep it really brief, but for the most part, so like Jim Holton and Matt Upmore and Darius, our industrial hygiene specialist, who's actually it's Dr. Darius. Like they not only have helped write the health and safety language for the big three and other facilities, but they've helped write the safety language for ANSI, NIH, all these different consensus standard boards. They helped write the language to increase and push the agenda for certain safety measures, like certain fall hazards and electrical hazards and fire hazards, other things like that. So that way, that is a consensus standard that we can reference. They're on both. And to be able to work with them was absolutely humbling. And to touch on your question too, I experienced that because I'm not from a union shop. I grew up in an anti-union household. And so when we were going through training and they were explaining concepts like subpay and a bunch of other stuff, I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I would have asked for that if I was aware of it, but holy shit, this is normal for you guys? If there's no work, you guys get sent home with 80% pay and your healthcare is covered? Wow, I didn't know that was even a thing. And there's lots of things like that. But so those were things that in learning about it, we wanted to make sure that was integrated in. But at the end of the day, we always reference back to the demands and from the membership to make sure that those are covered. And then the other stuff that we didn't know about it was okay, let's see how this all meshes together and let's try to push this forward.
And just to be rhetorical, at any given time, did they tell us what we should have? Were they the ones that made the decision?
No, never.
Yeah. That was the point to make. Is as much assistance as we had, the final decision on whether this was a good idea or a bad idea was entirely up to people from Volkswagen Chattanooga who were elected to look at that stuff.
Yeah, I think to have those SMEs was an amazing thing to have, to really guide us to get that language that we're looking for, language we didn't know we needed sometimes. Because we're just like the shop floor, right? We're the members there. They put in demands. We want better health and safety. But what does that really mean? We don't know. We just want to be safe and we want to be more ergonomic.
Right, yeah.
But how do you do that? Right. So when we got to the room, when we got to meet these guys, and they've bargained contracts all over the damn place, and they've bargained contracts with Ultium, and you name it, and you see that language in front of you. And then maybe working in the past for other companies, you've experienced maybe a union shop or companies that were really good at health and safety. Just to see that and be able to work with that language and get pattern or pattern plus, whatever you want to call it, is just an amazing thing to have. And I think in addition to all the economic demands that we have, to have the language in place for health and safety, continuous improvement, product sourcing and stuff like that, it is an incredible thing. And I think once we have our contract in place, it's going to be a whole new world, a different culture. And, oh my God, where do you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, especially the health and safety type stuff, it may not sound that exciting, but you never really see the cost of an injury that was prevented. You never get to actually count the dollars that were saved by somebody not having to be rushed to the hospital because something broke and fell on them or something like that. Someone didn't fall. And, that's the weird part of it is you're looking at it like, wow, this is going to help out in so many ways, but it's on the back end. And if it works, you'll never know that it worked.
Yeah, because health and safety is one of those things that it's crucial, but it's not sexy. It's not like general wage increase. It's not like COLA or profit sharing or stuff like that. Right. But you absolutely have to have it. It's one of the most crucial things, and it's actually one of the last subcommittees that usually closes in negotiations. And we completely closed the subcommittee back in January.
Oh,
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, and it took a lot of work. I mean, we were meeting once, twice a day, almost every single day of the week for months on end. And but we got it closed out.
Yeah, I like Josh, your point about, you don't ever see the result of an accident that didn't happen. Like you have, we talk about medical and we talk about safety and stuff all the time in our plant, and the reason we talk about it all the time is because it doesn't work. Right? When it works the way it's supposed to, it becomes invisible. You don't see it. It's there. It's protecting you. But it's the only time it should be seen is when it breaks down, or you find a way to make an incremental improvement along the way.
And I really fought hard for this too. So like this was my pet project. I wanted to make sure, and we all worked together on this to make sure that the workers, every single person at Volkswagen can be able to submit a health and safety concern, and it's a time-bound process. And if it doesn't get resolved at the lowest level, then it automatically becomes a safety complaint. And if that doesn't get resolved at the lowest possible, it automatically becomes a stage 2 grievance. And we've got ways of being able to empower the workers feedback, perspective, especially when it comes to things like ergonomics. And I made sure that we streamlined even like their HYP, like how's your process, stuff like that, because that went to a different channel before. Like as of in current state, that goes through medical, that doesn't go through the health and safety team. Now we're gonna have a joint health and safety process where we're getting all of that information. So if we're going through a walk, I can just be able to look at a chart and say, hey, I've got a lot of X's in this area. I want to see what the hell's going on.
Right. It's like, how can you advocate for people in need if you're not aware that there's a need?
Absolutely. And so we crafted some pretty empowering language that basically enables every worker on the shop.
I like that. So, all right, I want to talk about that, the crafting of the language. So, quick, I guess. Let's walk through the process, right? So, you guys, you're in your subcommittee, you're talking with your counterpoints, and go.
It's an interesting process, and it kind of depends on the scope of what we're talking about there. So, if it's something that's affecting us on the floor, or something that a member had a demand in for that we were like very familiar with, it wasn't that difficult to try to address, and a lot of times it's as simple as like, okay, what would you like to have different? Write that down and then run it up the flagpole, so to speak. If it's a topic that's a little bit more complex that requires us to get some input from someone who's been there and done that, we would have a lot of help from them as far as crafting that language, especially if it was pattern language from other contracts and stuff like that, where it could be kind of copied and pasted to be applied here. There's that, and there's the extremely high level stuff like the healthcare issues or economics, the wages and COLA. It's like, how do we write profit sharing language? Like, none of us have ever received profit sharing. So, you have to go, I need a little bit of help crafting this one. And so generally what it would be, if it was the smaller potatoes kind of thing, like you're very much capable of doing that. So you would write it, it would get passed to the company, you go back and forth. And when it got to the point of, both sides agreed on it, it would come back to the room, and the person who brought it, guess what? You get to read it out loud to everybody, and if people have an issue with it, it's your ass. Like, you stand and deliver at that point,
I wanted to touch on something too. So this is to do both things. One, to explain the process that we went through and the work that we went through, but also to kind of quell some more misinformation from the company. So in the company's videos where they're saying, oh, we have worked so hard to close out all these issues. Here's the reality. We showed up. They didn't. So the way that bargaining is supposed to work typically, we bring demands and we discuss what those demands mean. And the company is supposed to write language based off of our conversation of the demands. And then we go back and forth changing little things about it. They didn't do shit. And they weren't doing a damn thing. And so finally, we started doing pattern language where we were taking language from like Ford and Ultium and whatnot. And we started basically, we would take that language, and then amongst our subcommittee on the union side, we would discuss it. It's like, okay, how does this fit here? How does your system work here? Da, 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 da. And so then we would kind of like chop that up so that way it would fit here on the shop. And then we'd bring it to the company. But the other part of that is that the company never provided almost any of the RFIs that we needed to be able to write language. So we had to
I'm sorry, what's an RFI?
Request for information.
Okay, thank you.
So we had all these requests for information that they didn't provide any data to us for. And so we would create based off of what our understanding from the shop floor was, but we still didn't have some of the higher level knowledge. So then we wrote all of the language. And we basically did the hardest part of the company's job for them. So that's how we accomplished so much in such a short period of time. So like every time I see those videos, it makes me cringe inside because I was like, no, you didn't work tirelessly. We worked tirelessly and you're taking credit for it.
And I just kind of want to add one more thing to that, because when we did get language back from the company, a lot of it is normally like struck through, which means they don't want to go with that language and they'll put some replacement language in there. What normally happens with that language is that language only works for the company. It doesn't work for the company and for the rest of us, right? It's just for the company, not for the employees. The language we put in there works for both. It works for the employees as well for the company. Now, they don't see it that way, obviously, but eventually you'll get through that point. So that's why you have a whole lot of meetings. Sometimes you'll have more than one meeting a day just to kind of go through that and make them kind of see that point of view. So that's been really helpful. And then in addition to that, we also did a lot of what they call sidebars. So you don't go, you meet with a few people of the bargaining subcommittees. And normally there's no notes taken, but you have really good and honest and open conversations about it. And you have a really good opportunity to provide them with more feedback and backgrounds and why are we doing this and how do you feel about that and how do you see that without being on record? Because being on record for the company is very hard to deal with. And so they want to talk to you, but they'd rather talk to you outside of the room and get a lot of work done that way. And that's been very helpful. And then they go back to their teams, we go back to our teams, and eventually you get to the final document that you can both TA on. That's been working really well for us.
So I first of all, you're not the only one that gets creeped out by them weird videos. There's a lot of us that don't like those videos, but also I like what you said about the creating language that works for both sides, right? Because this is supposed to be a mutually agreed upon business agreement.
Yes.
It can't just work for Volkswagen,
yes.
right? That's the system we have now. That's why we won the union, right? And it can't just work for the union because we're going to ask for $1 billion and the company will go bankrupt, right? So it's, I mean, right? It can't be that way. It's got to be a mutually agreed upon agreement. So, I mean, that's important. I'm glad you guys are doing that.
Yeah, that was really one of the big parts of it starting out was in initial conversations with the company. Like there was so much, I don't want to say it was hostility. I mean, maybe some of it was, but a lot of it was just kind of just scared of that reality. It's like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing because now I cost the company $1 million or something, And, through the course of just having conversations, honestly, the off-the-record sidebars like Tony talked about, it put them in a position where they started to understand like, oh, we're not here to try to take over or be in charge or something like that. It's like, no, there are problems we've been dealing with for a very long time that they have chosen not to address. And, that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this. And, and that was the thing, starting out, writing our own language at the outset, like that was such a freeing thing because it kind of lets you set the tone for the discussion. And as they started realizing we're not trying to bankrupt Volkswagen, this is how we make money. Yeah. We want this place to get more units. We want to build millions of cars a year.
Yes.
We want to succeed and thrive and hire more people and have people be able to work here for the entirety of their working years.
Yes.
Retire from here and not be completely broken down and broke as a result.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is probably a good time to wrap this up. We got hopefully a lot more conversations to be had.
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed this. Is there anything for this 0 episode that you guys would like to add? Any more ideas or you want to share?
Normally at the end of our daily meetings, after we wrap up everything that's been discussed or language that's been passed or plans for the future or, watching the latest Christina video or something, Chuck in the center of the room will ask everybody, what are we going to do? And we always say,
Get our shit.
Perfect.